What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. In the last one, you guys seen me tear apart this RX7, at least the whole front end, pulled everything out of the engine bay. But now we're moving on to the next step. Next step is to pressure wash this engine bay, start sanding it, getting it ready for paint, doing all that prep work. If you guys didn't see the last video, go check that out. There was a lot of stuff that I pulled out of here. So if you guys didn't see the last video, you could tell that this is pretty bad in here. There's a couple of dents, dings, stuff like that I'm not too worried about. More than anything, I just want the paint to stick to the car. Just in case down the line, if I ever want to make this car really nice, at least exterior-wise, if I want to repaint the exterior, I have a fresh start, and I don't have to tear the motor out and everything like that. I can leave the old drivetrain in the car and just spray the exterior. We got to get that cleaned out of there, so when we're spraying it, there's not any dirt hiding in any places that wants to jump out and get onto the paint. The first thing we got to do really is we got to get Big Bertha out of the way here. We got to put that outside so we can roll this outside, and then we can start scrubbing it and washing it. so I got the car pulled back inside. Looking a little bit cleaner. Looking a little bit better. Got all the grease and stuff like that off of it. Obviously, the next thing that I think I'm going to tackle is going to be these pieces of angle iron that they welded to the frame rails. This is going to take a little bit of work. They welded it on both sides. They welded it here and here, and some on the back side too. So we're going to take a cut-off wheel. We're going to carefully cut those off without trying to cut into the frame rails. So hopefully we don't find anything too bad underneath there. But I think I can get it off of there pretty easily. But it'll just take some time. And once I get those cut off of there, I'll take the little flapper disc, or a I guess what you would call these, a kind of like a little burger wheel. We'll knock off all the rust off of any of the surface rust that's anywhere. It's not too much, but obviously the most of it's going to be right back there where it looks like the master cylinder was leaking. So there's quite a bit of rust there. We'll hit that all off of there. There's a couple of spots, you know, here and here. I really want the paint to stick, so we're going to try our best to get most of that surface rust off of there to prep it for paint. Alright, so as you can see, got those tabs knocked off of here, ground down all the welds. There's some spots that I'm going to have to fix. This here where that the tab was welded, the weld actually pulled the metal through. I couldn't get in there to cut it far enough. You can see I got a little deep here with the cutoff wheel, so I'm just going to weld that up on this side. On this side, gonna have to do some welding as well. This was actually a bump out in the frame, and where they had mounted that, they sliced it and then beat it in to be able to get it to mount flat. So I'm just gonna I smacked this with a hammer pretty good. It ain't gotta be pretty. This is gonna be very hidden. I'm just gonna hit the welder. I'm gonna weld that seam up and then grind it smooth and try to make it look as presentable as possible. Alright, so I got that all welded up, ground down. You can barely tell that was there. I kind of suck at welding. This is this side. You can still see there's a little bit of a score mark where I got a little too deep with the angle grinder, but the only way to fix that would be to, build it up with some weld. And it's on the side of the frame rail. You're never going to see it. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the little grinder, the little soft wheel on it. I'm going to start knocking off all the thick rust, probably some of this stuff here on the side of the frame rail, get all that knocked off. right, so it's the next day. Actually, my swap mounts came in. These are the 2J swap mounts. These are the excessive manufacturing ones. And also, when you do a 2JZ and the RX7, hood clearance is a problem. It sits a little too tall. Our hood is already cut out from the previous one, so I'm not too concerned about it. But they still say you want to run subframe spacers, so these are the excessive manufacturing subframe spacers. These go between the subframe and the frame rails. Good thing while we were doing this, I didn't realize that you have to cut the heads off the bolts for the frame rails, or for the subframe, to be able to put in these longer bolts. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So these are what I'm talking about right here. So you can see that these head of the bolts, these go straight down through, and then there's a nut on the back side of the subframe here. So these bolts, they need to be cut the welds off them. There's two of them. There's one here, one there, and on the other side too, one here, one there. So gotta kind of cut the welds off these, grind them down, so that we can put the longer bolts in. For that. So I'm going to probably do that before we go to sanding anything or anything like that, and then go in before I do paint, so that way I don't have to ground down those welds and I can make it look half decent. Alright, so my idea for the moment is to just take the nuts off the bottom of these bolts here while it's still welded. That way we can crack them loose, grind the welds off, pull the bolt out, grind it flat, put them back in, and then just put them there just to hold the subframe in. Because this subframe is going to come out, like I said, it's cut where the original mounts would sit, so we can't use this subframe. I have another one coming. Like I said, I got another one of those subframes coming through eBay. I'm not going to really film pulling these out. Pretty much just a bunch of grinding. That's all I'm going to be really doing. So we'll do some YouTube magic. And we'll pull these out of here. Alright, so we got those pulled out of there. Just had to cut the heads off them, like I said. Ground the surfaces smooth, so the washers, they lay flat. And I left two of them in. I took these out, ground them flat, and then stuck them back in, just so it holds the subframe in. Just put one in each corner, just to hold it in for rolling it around for right now. One other thing that I had noticed too, at least, you know, stuff that I got to pull out of the bay before I go ahead and paint it, is I might have to pull this cross member. So at least from what I see, the way you want to mount your radiators, it can kind of get a little tight with the 2J up front here. And sometimes you have to mount your radiator on a little bit of a V. And as you can see, this sits out a little bit farther than the core support. So we're probably going to have to just drill out the spot welds and yank that out. I'm not too concerned about, you know, the structural integrity of it. You know, the frame rails are tied together with this subframe here, and then when the bumper goes on, the bumper ties the frame rails in at each end. And if I have to, I might put a bar up farther. I could put a bar right here. I think there's two bolt holes here, and we could just put a bar a little bit farther up, or we could just even move this bar up, or make another one completely. But I think that's the only thing that's going to come out of the bay yet, and that'll be the last bit of metalworking I have to do. So we'll get right to that. Alright, so I got that cross member pulled out, drilled out the spot welds, and got it pulled out. That's pretty much the last thing, one of the last things before we need to paint any of the last metalworking anyways. While I was thinking, I forgot that obviously I need a way for my intercooler piping. So the only thing yet metalworking wise that I would like to do is obviously cut holes here on both sides for my intercooler piping. I would almost like to mock up my intercooler and everything like that first before I do that. But I will have to see. There's pretty, it's only a pretty narrow space. I might be able to get away with just cutting it first and then just fitting my intercooler piping around it because I'm looking to get this painted sometime this week yet. So I'm still looking to do all the sanding and everything like that, and then just go ahead and paint it. I don't really want to cut those holes after I paint it. I'd like to cut them before, preferably, but we'll have to see what I got to do. As for today, that's going to be all the time I have for today to make this video. So stay tuned for the next one. I'm probably going to be painting it in the next one, getting everything sanded down, shooting the color, and we'll go from there. But thank you guys for tuning in, and later.